Hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this Monday Masterclass, Ethical Marketing with the wonderful Karen Webber. We will be getting started very shortly. We're just going to wait for the last few people to join in. Would you like to let us know
There's
where
some
you are
echo.
listening in from?
Kai's saying there's some echo. Is that right, everyone? Echo. No echo here. Sweet. Love it. Simon's bouncing. He loves the standing when he's doing a podcast.
I've also got my coffee on the go as well,
God.
so strap in, everyone. This is going to be a good one.
Oh, love it. Where is everyone?
We've got some Birmingham, some London. I'm here in sunny Brighton. Whereabouts are you joining us from, Karen?
I am in sunny, for a change, Marple, which is on the edge of Greater Manchester and the Peak District. Yes.
Oh.
Very nice. And whereabouts are you, Francis?
I'm North London. Whenever I think about Karen, I think about her swimming in some gorgeous pond somewhere.
Pond.
You're going to have to tell us about your... She's like a Peak District outdoor, like extreme sports marketing adventurer. Aren't you, Karen?
I wouldn't go extreme sports. I'm too scaredy cat for that. But yeah, outdoors, definitely happiest outside for sure. And I think we have some other South Africans here because is it Hilton? Yes, Chris, you actually inadvertently, I think, swore in Afrikaans. So well done on that.
The question is, would people prefer a little lesson in Afrikaans, just so that we're all not making any...
Can't tell you to swear, can I?
No, not really. I mean, maybe you could. What's going on here? Zimbo. Don't know what that means. A bit of an in-joke.
Zimbo, oh right, it's from Zimbabwe.
I thought it was another swear word.
No.
Right,
Excellent
let's
stuff.
get to this. It's a serious subject today. I was thinking this morning what is going to happen this morning with Karen, because there's a lot of stuff that could come out of the wash. So Karen and I are new friends, I think thanks to Chris, who's here. In fact, definitely thanks to Chris, who's here. And again, one of those ones where we haven't actually met in real life, but that's all right. And when we first connected, we just immediately started vibing off each other as kind of fellow ethical marketeers, as women with children of a particular kind of age bracket that makes life even more fun. And it was just at the beginning of Simon and I working through what is our community going to look like. I introduced Simon to the Ethical Move pledge, and he totally signed up for it, and he had already come up with the idea of empathy-led marketing. I've been talking about human-centered marketing and we wanted to get you on early, Karen, because last week we talked about building a community, and this week it was really important to us to sort of talk about the next most important thing to us, which is ethical marketing and sort of what that means to us all. And who better to get us going on that fruity subject but somebody who is really leading the way with the ethical move around ethical marketing. And we all love a bit of Seth Godin, so we'll just get that one out there as well. But I guess what might be really useful for people, Karen, is if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick intro into sort of where you're coming from, your marketing background, why the ethical move, what you're doing now, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Sure. And thanks for having me. I feel really excited because you two are creating something amazing and needed and spreading the word. So I'm really pleased you've asked me. So thank you very much. My background is grew up in South Africa, started my career there, and then came to the UK to travel and started working with a marketing agency where I ended staying for 12 years. sort of worked my way up on the editorial side, and then went on my first maternity leave, and then started doing marketing for the agency. So it was very marketing in a very mainstream way, which for quite a while did not sit comfortably with me at all. And I never kind of put my finger on it. And I think when you're just doing things because that's how it's done, and you just carry on, and then you reach a point, or I reached a point where I was like, this is not sustainable for me. It wasn't the kind of marketing I wanted to do. It wasn't the kind of work I wanted to do, and the job itself didn't suit my lifestyle. So then about nearly 4 years ago, I decided to work for myself and started the business Goodness Marketing. And I wanted to do marketing that felt good to me and that I was proud of doing, and work with the kinds of businesses that I could choose, which you can't do when you work for an agency. You just, have to come up with campaigns for businesses who you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, or you don't believe that it's a good thing in the world to actually do the marketing. So that was about 4 years ago. And then maybe 2 years ago, a friend of mine told me about the ethical move, which was at the time just one pledge that you could sign, which was, I will not use charm pricing in my business. Now, charm pricing is where you price things at £297 because you want as close as possible to 300 without putting the 3 at the front, because it's called the left digit marketing effect, where our brains tell us, pay attention to the first number, because it's closer to 297 in our brains is closer to 200 than to 300. Nuts. Even though you actually say out loud, oh, it's about £300, your brain still thinks it's cheaper. So obviously I saw that and I could immediately get behind it. It was the first time I saw it articulated like that and kind of shown that it's manipulative. It's not something I thought of before. So I signed the pledge, and then just over a year ago, the founder, Alice Carolina, who lives in Canada, reached out to me and asked me so she'd been watching my work and she was aware of what I was doing, and asked me if I would join the team. And then, of course, I said yes. And she hates knowing this, but I was a massive fangirl. I was so like, oh, Alice from the ethical move. And she is as cool as she seems, by the way. So the fangirling is totally necessary. So over the last year, our team has changed enormously, and we've done so much work about setting ourselves up as an organization, because we believe the ethical move can function like a business that is the kind of business that we want to see in the world. So in addition to all the talk about ethical marketing, which is our main thing, we want to stimulate the conversation around ethical marketing. We definitely don't say that we have all the answers, because we don't. It's poorly researched manipulation in marketing. We just want people to have the conversation. So we're very open to be proven wrong. We go on our internal conversations. We're learning in public. We are going not back on ourselves, but for example, one of the parts of our pledge is being, I will not use countdown timers to drive a sale. So that's where we all go on it, and it's like, for the next 60 minutes, buy it at this reduced price, and here's the ticker, which is so anxiety inducing. And we just saw it as quite black and white, that's problematic, until people with certain neurodivergences told us that they actually find a countdown timer quite helpful, and it isn't quite as black and white. So then we went back to our team and we discussed it. So at the moment, we're looking at our pledge and looking how we can make it more intention driven, where we say we want to be, for example, open about our pricing, but being less prescriptive. Because what we have found is that some people have the intention, but perhaps in their organization they can't affect like how their prices appear, for example, but they still believe in the intention behind the ethical move. So we're looking again at tweaking our pledge based on that and continuing the conversation. So it's an incredibly rewarding team to be part of. We are across continents. We have someone in Singapore, Holland, Germany, Canada, all over. And we just want to spread the word and make people think about what is marketing for them, and how does that fit with how they feel about the world, and also realizing that as business owners we have both the power and the responsibility to change things if we don't feel it fits how we see the world. That's it in a big nutshell.
I'm trying to mentally remember a million questions that I want to ask you today, Karen. But what you're reminding me of is this kind of balance. I think that we're all, the three of us and other marketeers in our kind of merry band of sort of human-led marketeers, all about, which is doing the right thing, but also doing the right thing by you. Yeah. And funnily enough, Simon and I had a quite lengthy conversation about countdowns, because some people here will know that we wanted to price our community. We've been quite transparent about this. That's kind of something we stand for, as iterating out loud. We wanted to price our community in such a way at the beginning because we wanted to have enough people in it that it was going to be a meaningful community quite quickly, both for the members but also for our sanity and kind of anxiety levels. So we came up with a price which adhered to the charm price idea, thanks to the ethical move. But then also I was really sort of mindful of how we were kind of framing inviting people to sign up by a certain point, because the doors were going to open to the public on Monday. And I talked it through with Simon. And what was interesting was that when we sort of took it apart, we realised that it was just a sort of reality thing, which was on Monday the doors will open to people who were not already signed up to him. And because we were I was obsessing about it needing to be incredibly ethical and very transparent, it needed to have a sort of open and mindful conversation about sort of what was what was not only ethical but also completely clear to our potential members. And I'm really interested in what you're saying about the neurodivergent sort of viewpoint as being another one, which is sort of actually about being clear. And it's interesting because one of my questions for today to you was how can marketing serve us? We talk in the community about sort of marketing being another effing self-growth tool, because what it is about holding up a mirror to yourself and saying, why am I freaking out about this? What is it I'm trying to say? Why am I trying to say this? What are my values? And actually, when you sort of pivot the idea of marketing being, as I say, standing on a soapbox shouting at people, into understanding that it's more about a conversation and also an opportunity to understand your values, it starts becoming very sort of self-serving. So the ethical, I've heard you talk before about how the ethical move is also always looking to move from not just telling people what not to do, but trying to kind of energize them and sort of help them think about marketing as a way forward. Can you talk a bit more about that and about how you work with your clients and with people? I don't want to miss out on saying to everyone, you have to follow Karen. She's brilliant. She's got the most amazing newsletter that's constantly serving me, because it's really funny and extremely informative. So can you talk about how you think marketing is actually there to serve us? How can we use it for that potential?
I think one of the mindset things that I work with people on quite a lot, and it's often the businesses that do good in the world that struggle with this so much, is that marketing is actually, if your intentions behind it are pure, then marketing is actually an act of generosity rather than something that's always about getting something for you. So any of our businesses, and you've talked about being purpose driven, if your purpose in the world is to do good through your business, then it's your responsibility really to tell people about what it is. Otherwise you are hiding your magic, not just not fulfilling your own best purpose, but then you are hiding that and withholding that from people. So that's quite a big mindset thing that I work with people to try to shift so that they can better understand or kind of better serve the world through living in their purpose. And one thing that we talk a lot about in the ethical move is to put the person before the sale. And that's the kind of intention that I think sits behind our pledge quite a lot. So think when you are thinking about countdown timers, or where you're overthinking, can I tell them the doors close on Monday, for example? If that serves your people, no matter what you've read or what you think, like, is this ethical? If this ultimately serves the greatest proportion of people, then that's a good thing, right? And it is about the greatest proportion of people, because for me, part of ethical marketing is being accessible. So it's thinking about neurodivergent folks, people who use screen readers, for example. And that's another example of something within the ethical move, where over the past year, we've worked on things like moving our website to a new platform that allows us to be more accessible. We've done things like worked on our anti-racist statement, so to make sure that it's not just a policy on our website, but it's something that's ingrained in our business. So I think when people start seeing examples of businesses doing marketing in a different way, they will start thinking about marketing in a different way themselves, where they realize that, I think small businesses and startups, when we start our businesses, if we're not a marketer, we'll go, I'm just going to Google what Seth Godin or some of the other big names in the industry say, how I should price my things, how I should email. And we listen to the loudest voices. And I'm really here, and this is my mission, is to show that there is a different way, that you can do marketing that feels good to you, that does good in the world, and that still works in the sense that it gets good results. I don't know if that's answered any of your questions, because I've gone on a bit of a tangent there.
Not really, because you're living it out now. In that, what we want to say to people is marketing is a conversation, isn't it? Oh, and she's gone. Oh, and she's back.
There we go.
I was just saying marketing is a conversation, and then you bug it off. But no, this is the conversation. The conversation we're having now is the one which is going to allow people to understand more about us three individuals, but also hopefully a movement. And the whole point of good marketing is being clear, being intentional, being purposeful, and then facilitating a conversation that allows other people, as you're saying, be part of it. The inclusivity part of that marketing conversation is, how can you open this up in a way that everybody understands what you're saying, and using the amazing platforms that are out there now in a way that means that we're welcoming people to be part of the conversation. So as you said, marketing is an act of generosity. I actually think Mark, who is also here today, shared with us recently a kind of podcast platform that's designed to champion inclusivity. So there's a lot can't remember the name of it, maybe Mark can share it in the chat, but there's quite a lot of stuff going on, isn't there, that's all around sort of creating a safe space to help people feel more confident in having a voice. And actually, I've heard you talk before, Karen, about the power of community when you're looking to market yourself, and how lonely it can sometimes be, right, for kind of new sole traders or business owners who are kind of thinking about how best to market themselves. There's all these ethical questions, right, but there's also the sort of, how am I going to do this on my own type chat in one's head. Can you talk about that? You've been there, haven't you?
Definitely. Oh, absolutely. Like, I jumped ship from corporate life without being aware of any communities, or even like knowing to look for them. But it was only when I found those communities where I felt safe and at home that I feel my business started to blossom, because I realized that I'm not the first person to try to solve these issues, and I'm not the only person who has these questions, and I all of a sudden had these people around me. And for me, that definitely acts on, to be honest. Another thing that I've noticed is when people sign the pledge, or they come across the ethical move for the first time, so many of them say, there's more of me out there. And that's how I felt. Like, before I found the ethical move, I didn't even know ethical marketing existed as a concept. I just knew that I wasn't comfortable with certain types of marketing. And certainly at the time, and probably still now, I'm inadvertently, without knowing, I have some unethical marketing practices, and I've certainly done those things in the past. But then you surround yourselves with people who do things in a new, better, different way, and you have these conversations, and that's how you grow, and that's how you learn, and that's how you change. So for me, community is so important as a business owner, and in the context of this mission that I have for ethical marketing. It's all about having these conversations, learning and becoming better with and through others.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of tactics
message
out
there about a useful goal to aim for in marketing, that there's more of me out there. And I think, yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, because we see a lot of sort of tactics and high pressure selling of tactics to people who are looking for a direction, you know, maybe people who are looking for a solution, they're looking for guidance on how to do marketing, and then someone comes along with this very sort of attractive looking shortcut of like, you know, for only this much money I'll show you this magical shortcut and buy my magic beans. I promise they'll grow into customers, kind of thing. And, you know, it's really tempting. And I think one thing I've noticed over many years of working with sort of small businesses and sort of just individuals running their own businesses is that it's hard work resisting the might of the Facebook marketing department. I mean, they're spending tens of millions of dollars a day on getting people into Facebook ads. And, you know, after a couple of minutes on their website, I can be reconvinced that it's the answer to all marketing, because they're pumping so much money into it. But it's this relentless drive of tactics and hacks, and just keep putting money into it, just keep feeding the machine and it will work. And it's this sort of, as you said earlier, the sort of hamster wheel of it all. But I think one of the things we sort of talk about when we talk about how coaches in particular can do marketing is about starting a conversation. And I think if we think about sort of how you can attract people in an ethical way, then one of the best things you can do is to start with empathy and put yourself in that client's perspective and say, well, actually, if I was in my client's perspective and I was on social media, what would make me stop and go, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that, or I didn't even realise I could get, you know, I could work with someone on that. And even though you are sort of using some of those more marketing type sort of wording and phrasing to do that, if you're using that to start a conversation, then that feels like an ethical way to implement some sort of tried and tested marketing techniques. Because if you're not then going to, you know, a 60-minute countdown and a 299 course and the hack that's going to save everything, you know, if you're just saying, hey, if you feel like this, or if you're thinking like this, how about you read this blog or watch this video? And that's it, just leave it at that. And it's that sort of, so I feel like what you were saying earlier with, I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes on like end to end. I have to have an entirely ethical thing all the way along. And it's like, well, actually you can break it down into more manageable steps and just, you know, use some of the things that are tried and tested in marketing and have been around for years, but just don't end with that horrible pressure sale. Just be nice about it. So is there anything that you've kind of come across or written about or think about, that sort of thing, that you think might be useful from a sort of coach's perspective, who are often working with people who are maybe in a position of, I don't want to use, I use the word weakness in the sense that people who are looking for a solution, so they are problem aware, you know, is there anything you've sort of think about that?
I love what you say about basically not being exploitative when it comes to your marketing. It's not, I think there's a phrase, punching the bruise, where you highlight to people, this is wrong with you, and I'm going to really tell you it's wrong, and punch the bruise, and here's the solution, and it's magical, and it's going to solve all your problems. It's gross, and it's unethical, and it's lies. I think when it comes to coaches specifically, you're absolutely right. It's about conversations and building a relationship and being truly you and unafraid to show up and to show that to the world. And I think, so when I work with people, we always start with purpose, and we make sure that you're really clear about your purpose, which I'm sure coaches feel very strongly about that. You're clear about your values. You're clear about what you are and what you are not. And then from that, we also look at who is your ideal client. And I think that's where the empathy side comes in, where you can really put yourself in their shoes and you create content that solves their problems and you use the language that they want to hear. So then there's nothing fake about it. You're giving them the solutions. And then we look at content pillars. So from your purpose and your values and your ideal customers, we choose some themes that you can kind of talk about on a consistent basis. And then it becomes very much you creating good things in the world and just putting it out there. And then the focus becomes less on selling and more telling. Like you say, here's a problem. If this is your problem, here is a solution in the form of a blog, or come along to this workshop. And then it's not gross because it is true to you, because it's rooted in your purpose and in your values and in the people that you're serving. And then the whole thing, this whole marketing thing, just becomes less gross, in my opinion, because you're putting, you're being authentic and you're putting other people, you're putting the person before the sale and you're serving their genuine needs without being gross about it.
And can we talk about serving our own needs for a second and be really selfish and
Absolutely.
I just want to come back to this self-serving thing that I feel is undersold about marketing as a practice. And I want to just say to everyone again, it feels so joyous to watch you on Instagram. I want you to talk specifically about Instagram in a second. But the two top questions that we're always asked are around niching and social media. These seem to be the kind of dark places for everybody. And, it's something we really enjoy doing, helping people understand why niching is very self-serving, because as soon as you start understanding that niching is for you as much as anything else, people immediately understand that, they're not cutting off their noses to spite their faces by becoming more focused, but they're kind of stopping themselves having to spread so thin just to get the right amount of clients that is enough for them. And, the more focused they are, the more meaningful those conversations can be, the more people can feel like they're truly being talked to in a way that they understand. So it's not too difficult for us to get people in a happy place about niching, which is great. The social media thing is the thing, as you will know, that everybody seems to freak out about. And what we do say is you don't need to be on every single platform, and it's about kind of getting to grips with which one you feel most at home about. And yours, I think I'm right in saying, is Instagram, your kind of happy place. Yeah. Can you talk about why and like where that comes from, that relationship? If you can drill down, if you're okay to kind of deconstruct the feelings that come up for you and why that platform, I think that'd be really interesting for people to hear.
Cool. Okay. I do love Instagram. I think part of it is because it's really creative and it's quite visual. You can take nice photos. You can be quite silly. But bigger than that for me is community. It's where I found the people that I like hanging out with, hang out there most of the time. I think I have, LinkedIn was something I left behind quite quickly because LinkedIn was the main platform that I used in my old job. So the connections there, the community there, definitely like this, felt very fake, and it didn't feel like it was part of my current life anymore. So that's not really where I hang out, even though I know, Francis, you like LinkedIn and you're great on it as well. So I have, of course, met new people that do fit, that I do like hanging out with, but I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Twitter as well, I've pretty much left behind from a very selfish point of view, because I have 2,000 followers on there, which is more than I have on Instagram. But I just find, again, from a selfish point of view, I don't feel good when I spend lots of time on Twitter, even though I've curated who I follow on there. So it's less politics, which it used to be, and business. And now I have whales and weird things that happen in nature and stuff like that. But I still just find myself sucked into that world of politics and arguments and things. So from a selfish point of view, I have taken a step back and just stopped using that as a marketing channel. And we've done the same thing on the ethical move as well, where we decided we have limited resources. We're going to focus on Instagram and repost things on Facebook. Because we believe, again, we're setting up an organization that we feel should be exemplary, and we don't have the resources to spread ourselves thin. We're not going to pretend that we can. So we have something on our Twitter to say, we don't hang out here, come and find us in these other places. So yeah, to go back to your point, Instagram is my happy place, but I would always recommend to people that they don't focus, like don't make their key marketing channel a social media channel. I would say invest in your newsletter, invest in your subscribers, and spend more time there, because your newsletter list is something you own, like you own that data. People have actively opted in to hear from you there, which is probably what has given me a bit of a permission slip to just do whatever the hell I like on Instagram. I put, as you know, I put really silly, like I make really silly reels, and it will literally be, I have an idea and I just do it, and it doesn't take me 2 minutes, and I don't overthink it, and I just post it. And if I said this to a client, I think most of them would go, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that because people will unfollow me. That has not been my experience. My experience is that realness really resonates with people, and people now drop into my DMs and they go, I posted one really ridiculous one with bees flying around my head last week. And I cannot tell you how many people messaged me about that just because they liked the song, or it was a bit ridiculous, or the filter put freckles on my face and somebody messaged me about that. And, you know, we can overthink marketing, whereas I think people who are coaches, you are building relationships with future people that you're going to have a really deep relationship with. You don't want to put things on there that's fake. You want to show up as you. I always say to people, if you have professional photos taken, don't do that like with a suit if you're going to meet people in like if you're a personal trainer or whatever. So the same idea applies, I think. Show up on social media where and how you would in real life. I definitely, like, this is Lucy Sheridan, who is the comparison coach. She has this great analogy that you need to think about, say, Instagram as a real life event. So is it a farmer's market or is it a festival? And to kind of not conduct yourself, but use it as if you would in real life. And I think that analogy helps you think, how would I treat people in real life? Again, it goes back to the empathy a little bit, where when you have a conversation with someone, or if somebody comments on your photo, don't ignore them, because if somebody said that to you in real life, you wouldn't just turn around and walk away. You would engage in a conversation. So very much, I think social media I see as an extension of real life. If you're silly in real life, be silly on social. You know, make it real.
It's that lovely balance. I mean, I know I can come
Chris
to
says
you.
I'm encouraging people like him to be really weird on Instagram.
That's fine. He already is really weird on Instagram, by the way. He's saying that as if he doesn't have a secret
Chris, you're not
Instagram
weird
account.
enough. I want to
We're going to share it with everyone, Chris, after this. And also, please be careful, everyone, because there are people like Chris who do love Twitter. And, you know, what we're not trying to do is social media shame people into, like, not being on Twitter. If you love Twitter, you go, girl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the fact that I've got the fear around Facebook doesn't say anything about Facebook. It's just, what happens is I go on it and then I completely lose track. And my husband will say I do this about most things, but I'll go on and then I'll completely forget what it was I went on to do.
Yeah.
And I go down a weird hole of like, oh, look at that little shiny thing over there. Oh, no, this is not what I was supposed to be doing. So it's all... Go on.
Can I also just jump in there? Because I think a lot of people feel really bad when they go on social and get distracted, but that is literally what the app is designed to do. It's designed, as soon as you open Instagram, the aim of Instagram is to wipe your mind and just keep you in the app.
100%.
Like if you close Instagram, they've worked out the exact number of seconds it takes before they push another notification to your phone saying so-and-so just updated the story to bring you back. You know, these are dopamine machines. So I think we all need to give ourselves a bit of break and a little bit more credit in terms of that I went onto this and I got distracted, because all that means is they're doing their job great, and we just happen to fall for it that day, and it's fine. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But I'm the same on Medium. I'll go onto Medium to write to put my article on Medium. I'll read 4 or 5 things, and I'm like, what did I come out? Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be putting something on, not reading it. But it's that, you know what I mean? I think there's a certain element of just acknowledging, taking a moment, just being like, I've been on here for 10 minutes scrolling. I didn't intend to do that. Yeah, they got me again. But
But also, I think it's about being forgiving of ourselves, and we offer a space in the community which is designed entirely to allow people to go down rabbit holes. So we have a workshop which I will be holding for members, and it's giving permission to go down a rabbit hole, but then knowing how to use that. And I was going to mention sort of 3 content delivery avatars that have come onto my radar recently, which is the idea of one is the expert, which someone called Carlos kindly called Simon and me. I don't know if we are necessarily experts, but it's the idea that you've got something of value to give to people, and your content is about serving that value to someone. Then the second avatar is a what do they call it, Simon? An enthusiast, somebody who's up for showing their own journey in a sort of really sort of honest. There's lots of I get caught up on this word because I know lots of people have got different views about which is the right word: honest, authentic, vulnerable. So let's not get caught up on that, but that being that. And then the third thing is, I think, a beautiful idea, which is how to curate other people's content. And I love the idea of giving yourself permission to go down a rabbit hole, but then to be able to kind of repurpose content in a way that's respectful and crediting of other people's work, but where your packaging up of something is the art. And so I think it's perfectly all right to go down a rabbit hole on Medium or Instagram, as long as you can then be conscious of the experience that you're having as the viewer, and work out what it is you'd like to say about the experience you're having. And this is all, we can be very light about it, but I'm just looking at Kai's comment about struggling to be able to put anything on social or blogs without feeling false or unethical. And I think, Kai, that's something that we all go through, and it's I think there's this sort of lovely point where we flip from being sort of feeling it's all a bit horrible to it's going to be okay, because we're showing up in a way on social or on blogs that sort of feels reflective of where we're actually at. And I'm struggling to find the words right now. Maybe Karen, you can sort of talk around this a bit more, but yeah, just how can we give ourselves a break and give ourselves permission to do the thing that we really want to do? And I think for coaches this is really important. There's such a hunger to get good out there, to serve people, to be that people helper, and yet because of who coaches are, there's this sort of alertness to whether or not something's right or wrong, how helpful it is, whether it's ethical or not, and in a way we can be crippled by that. So there's this sweet spot that is allowing ourselves to pivot into it's all right, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, I find that having a framework really helps. So I've already mentioned the content pillars, but I would go back right to the beginning. What's your purpose? What are your values? What are the themes you want to talk about in the world? And then giving yourself permission to start with what feels easy. So I teach a blogging course, and I always say, go with your flow, not the flow, go with your flow. If you don't have to start with a headline, and you don't have to start with the intro on a blog, just the idea that you want to convey, just start writing that. And I do feel we learn through doing. So Kai, even if you struggle knowing whether to post something, at least just write. I would say that's a really good practice when it comes to marketing, is just put your ideas on paper, or like screen, because before that it can just feel like a massive jumble in your head. So when I do this content pillar exercise with clients, we really talk about purpose and values, and we break it down. This is my best tool, this for content planning. We post it. We break down all your purpose and your values and your what you want to say in the world into like little modules, and then we theme that together, and then we go, right, your first value is whatever it is, and then come up with just the first thoughts that pop into your head, and then start writing and start creating, because it's through that doing that what feels right comes to the fore. Otherwise, it just stays this all here, ideas and thoughts, and you mull it over and you overthink it. And of course, having accountability. So having somebody who might be at the same stage in the journey, someone in your community who's going through the same thing, someone who can just give you that second pair of eyes on whatever it is you've written, highlight the bits that are really worth celebrating, and help you suss out the bits that aren't quite right or that feel problematic to you. Just having that outside eye on what you're doing can be really helpful and powerful in just moving you forward. But yeah, I would say create, and then you'll hit upon something that feels right, and that you cannot not put it out there in the world. And I feel that's when you kind of start gaining that momentum.
Love that. You cannot not put it out. That's great. Lucy's asking another key thing, so there's an irony. We look after specifically coaches in our community, and they look after each other. But the big irony is that we all don't seem to be able sometimes to apply the excellent knowledge that we have and that we're able to serve to our clients to ourselves. So Lucy's asking, I wonder how many of us are just worrying about negative feedback when posting things. So we all know that there's things that we can tell ourselves that we're very good at telling other people about how to manage those feelings. But there's also maybe questions in there about the science of whether or not sort of how many people like us or don't like us, or who's posting negative feedback, and what does that actually mean about our value. They're all really real sort of anxieties that can stop people from putting stuff out there, even though they feel incredibly compelled to do so, and they're very comfortable with their value set, and that what they're saying is very appropriate and helpful. What would you say to people, Karen, around those feelings, and sort of how have you helped people in the past around those feelings?
Well, I guess like talking it through helps. I must say, I always like to look at the facts. And like you say, the science that a certain percentage of people just will not like you. In my experience, the fact is that negative feedback is few and far between. I had a call with a client who is a coach actually this morning, and I was brutal. And I just said to her, nobody is paying attention. Because as much as we use marketing so that people sit up and listen and pay attention, literally nobody reads every word in your newsletter. Nobody looks at your marketing in totality. So the things that we worry about just won't come to fruition. It just won't happen. Where somebody will go, you post far too much. I've heard from you yesterday. How could you possibly post on your own Instagram 2 days in a row? And that sort of stuff just doesn't happen. It only happens in our heads. And I think when you talk that through with other people, and when you look at people that you admire on social media, or where you think their marketing is excellent, and see that they too, well, maybe they get a bit of negative feedback or whatever, but to see what are the facts, what's the reality, is this going to happen, is part of it. So talking it through with somebody else. But I think, yeah, definitely one of it is the dose of reality, that nobody looks at our output in even nearly as much detail as we think. And last week was a great example, because I had a short course last week, and the day after the first workshop of the course, 3 people got in touch with me and they said, I missed this completely. And I posted about it multiple times in the preceding week. I sent 2 newsletters, and one of them I actually saw in person on the Monday, and it completely passed them by. So we might think that we are putting out all of this stuff and people are going to bring their very critical magnifying glass and they're out to get us. The reality is it is very unlikely to happen, but we can only diminish those fears, I think, by looking at the facts and talking it through with others. That's probably my best advice.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because I think one thing I learned a while ago from, I can't remember who it was some big social media company, and they were essentially saying that people in general see about 5% of your output. So, you know, if you take that into account, then actually if you post on Instagram every day for a month, people are seeing 2 or 3 posts, max.
And might not read every word of the caption.
Yeah.
I might not overthink it.
Absolutely. And people, I mean, I suppose the other thing to do is to flip it back and go, well, when was the last time you complained to someone about over marketing to you? You know, have you ever done it? I don't know anybody. I know someone who's emailed saying, hey, how did I end up on this list? Fair enough, questions like that, but I've never had someone saying you're sending me way too many blogs, or you know, I think you're posting too much on Instagram. As you say, people just don't do that. Nobody has time in their day to, or they just unfollow. If it's not for them, that's cool. But I mean, I think you've got to be saying something fairly controversial or something fairly against the grain to be getting negative feedback. You might be getting someone saying, I don't understand this, can you tell me more about it? But to actually get negative feedback, like I think you'd have to be, I don't know, I'm willing to be proved wrong. If anybody's had some really nasty feedback, I'd apologise. But from my personal experience and that of all of the clients I've helped, we've never had any like properly negative feedback on posting.
And I think
also that it's a reality of, it's also just a life reality. You know, I got shouted at the other day by someone who I don't know from Adam, and you know, immediately I was very able to say this is something that they're going through, because it was a completely random instance where my 3-year-old son was with me, and it was, you know, really sort of took me by surprise, but because it wasn't a relationship that was close to my heart, I didn't ask myself lots of questions about how much of this is my fault, because it was so obviously not my fault. And I think the same goes for, you know, again, this is how marketing can be a mirror. Our fears of how people might react to us say very much about what our fears are about our realities. And, you know, where people respond to us, it's partly going to be to do with something we said, but it's going to be a large part to do with what they're going through in their own lives. So even if you get something negative on social media, I feel it's important for us all to remind ourselves that, you know, it may largely be about the person who's doing the kind of neggy talking back there, which is to your point, Simon. You know, it's very infrequently that we see people being so negative, but even when they are, is that our problem? Is it something about us? Does it need to reflect some kind of strategic decision that we need to change? Probably not. Yeah, you can't just not walk down the road in case someone has a go at you, I think.
Well, I think just to echo in a quote from our favourite person, Seth Godin, you know, he says, you know, your business can't serve everyone, and that's okay. And I think it's that kind of, you know, just remembering that what you do, what we do, you know, what Karen does isn't for everybody. There will be people out there who look at what we do, look at what Karen does, and just go, no, it doesn't sound like me at all. I'm up for a 10x your income 299 course, thank you very much. That's me all over, and jump in. But those who don't are going to resonate and will champion. But the people who look at you and go, you're not for me, I don't think are going to spend the time to tell you that you're not for them.
And this comes back to the niching thing again. If you're more focused on who you want to talk to and surround yourself with, and who your thing is most relevant for, and your marketing reflects that, you're probably going to have less and less people thinking that what you're saying is not relevant for them, but also you're protecting yourself from people actually saying that to you. So all these things go hand in hand, don't they? I think.
Yeah, I definitely would say don't be scared of taking a stand as well. Because one of the mistakes I see very often being made is where people try for their marketing to be for everyone, like you say. And I make the analogy that it's like vanilla ice cream. Nobody hates vanilla ice cream. Nobody goes, that's disgusting. But nobody loves it either. It's nobody's favorite. They don't take a photo of it. They don't Instagram it. It's just, it's what you get when you have to cater for 20 people. But people get truly excited about like pistachio or like their favorite thing. And I think that's what you want to try to achieve with your marketing, is going, yes, I'm definitely not chocolate ice cream. I'm pistachio, and I'm going to own it. And people will be drawn. The right people will be drawn to you for that, because the last thing you want to be is vanilla, where people just go, she's all right. but I'm going to go with this coach who really speaks my language and whose values resonate with mine. And like you say, the coach that is definitely not for you, you're not going to bother like slagging off their blog or whatever. You're just going to go to somebody else. So I think maybe start vanilla if you have the fear, but put a sprinkling of pistachio on the top and then see how that fits and like falls with people. And I think soon you'll see that the right people will be attracted to you, not in spite of your pistachio, but because of your pistachio. And I think that's a really great place. But it is, of course, a journey. It's not something you try on day dot, because there is an element of fear.
But I love what you're doing, which is that you've brought today 2 real life examples, and I've talked about the party before, and, you've also talked about the farmer's market. And, marketing is, let's just think about a metaphorical situation in which we're showing up today. And I can't help but again just mention that we would rather not have everyone coming up to us ordering loads of different flavours if what we're in the business of doing is serving pistachio ice cream. We want to surround ourselves with a pistachio ice cream fan club so that we can all you can sort of relax about having to sell it too much, because you're already providing something that people want and need, and then they're talking amongst themselves about how lovely it is to be standing around eating pistachio ice cream together. That's kind of the marketing dream.
Apart from Kate Shields, who says vanilla is my favourite ice cream.
We've all got, mine's fish food.
Class. Honestly, you need some more ice cream in your life, my friend.
or please, can you share which vanilla ice cream you're eating? Because I want to try it.
I bet it's like artisan made with flecks
I was going to say
locally sourced vanilla, because otherwise I just don't see the point of like soft scoop vanilla from a plastic tub.
If it's boho gelato, then I'm willing to be convinced. It's a great one in Brighton. I know Kate's in Brighton, so
I'm just going to rein this in and be really serious, because that's me. It's fine. Chris makes a really important point, which is that it's a profound realization that I'm not for everyone. And again, but the sooner you realize that, right, the better. The sooner we all get to a place of comfort and reality. And I'm thinking of the drama triangle of victim and rescuer, and we don't want to be at the mercy of everyone else's validation. We want to have a sense of our own value and worth, and be able to be strong in how we go out there and talk about not only what we have to give, but also who we want to surround ourselves with, and sort of what our boundaries are. And I think as marketers, that's our skill set as well. It's sort of teaching people how to create boundaries that make them feel safe, teaching about authenticity and not about sort of vomiting stuff all over the place and then exposing yourself, and sort of making those, coming up with our own personal sort of place at which, enough is enough, but I've shown up enough that people understand who I really am. These are really important self-reflection opportunities in marketing that we might go through life not actually coming to a realization about, if we don't have to show up for not only ourselves but something we stand strongly for. And what Karen said at the beginning of all of this, which is the act of generosity that is putting something out there. And again, being amongst coaches, we're amongst people who are just, their agenda is to try to help other people sort of feel like they're better versions of themselves for themselves. And we want to enable that. So the responsibility there that you talked about, I think is really wonderful. It's not just sort of unshaming marketing, but sort of starting to see marketing as a way forward that I love. And that's the energy I get from you every time I talk to you or hear you or read your stuff.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Thank you. Nice to hear.
So just to looking at the time, we are time is rushing past all this chat of ice cream. What I'd like to do, Karen, is just ask you the question that we're asking all of our guests, which is, what one idea would you like people to take away today? Thinking of our audience of coaches, is there an idea that springs to mind from our conversation today that you'd like them to take away with them into the rest of their week?
Forget all the shoulds that you think you know about marketing, and tune into what feels good to you and what feels right to you when you have conversations on marketing channels.
That's really good. I like that. forget the should, embrace the good.
Oh,
Really.
that's a tagline.
There you go, you can have that one. That's excellent.
Karen, where would you most like for people to follow you as well?
Well, for excellent B reels, come to Instagram. And I would love if people signed up to my newsletter, even though I'm going to take a break over August, because even though the rules say show up every week, we have to do what feels good to us. And what feels good to me is spending time with my kids for the next month. So I'm scaling back all of that. So please sign up and I'll email you in a month.
And the other thing that Karen does that I love in her newsletters, so you know how these guys were saying, everyone, that not everyone reads your stuff verbatim. Not true in my case, because I read everything that Karen says word for word. And at the bottom of her newsletters, she does this really sweet thing, which is give you some ideas for your own social posting, which is just lovely, because sometimes we just need a little bit of food for thought to get us on our way. So I really would encourage you, albeit that you won't get anything for another month or two from Karen, to sign up for her newsletter. But we'll post your social bits and bobs in the chat now.
We'll also post them in where we post the replay of this conversation in the community, so we will put the links under that replay as well. So if you are watching this in the replay, check underneath and you will see. If you're watching the replay on Crowdcast, then you should see the chat scrolling away by the side as you watch the replay, so do check out for Karen's link there. I think we will post your Instagram as well, so people can check out those reels. So yes, thank you very much everybody for listening and watching. If you'd like to join the conversation or find out any more about the community, the Better Bolder Braver community for coaches, then do head over to betterbolderbraver.com. There should also be a little button at the bottom of the chat saying join the community. If you want to just head straight over and learn more about how you can join and get involved, then that will also take you straight there. If you've got any follow-up questions, do post them in the community and we will endeavour to answer them or pass them on to Karen if it is something that we feel she'd be able to add a lot of value to. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. We host these weekly. We too have a week off, I think, in August. In about 3 weeks' time, there's going to be a gap. But otherwise, we are every week right the way through till end of October, is it, Francis?
I'm very organised.
Francis has done amazing work and got us absolutely stacked to the rafters with amazing guests all the way through to October. So by registering today, you will get some emails about future events, and we'd love to see you as part of that conversation in the future.
That'd be great. Thanks, everyone. And I've also posted the Ethical Move pledge there, because it doesn't cost anything to have a look at that, sign up for it, and be part of that community as well. So hats off to the Ethical Move.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Any reflecting thoughts, Karen?
I just want people to feel free. I just want people to feel free to be who they are and do their work and share their work with the world. If you do good stuff, you and the world deserve to know about it. And you don't have to listen to the rules. You don't have to say what people say you should do. You should just do what feels good to you.
Love it.
Perfect. Thank you very much,
great
Karen.
week, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank
everybody.
You, Karen.
Take care. See you next time.
See ya. We're still live.